Imagine waking up tomorrow morning, looking out your window and realizing the bright blue sky you have known your entire life is permanently gone, replaced by a hazy, milky white dome. It sounds like the opening scene of a dystopian science fiction movie, but right now, some of the most brilliant scientists on Earth are seriously arguing that this exact scenario might be the only way to save human civilization from complete ecological collapse. For decades, we have been told the exact same exhausting story. Plant trees, drive electric cars, recycle your plastic, and maybe, just maybe, the planet won't boil. But behind closed laboratory doors, climatologists are quietly having a much darker, far more desperate conversation. We are losing the climate war. The ice is melting faster than our worst models predicted, and cutting global carbon emissions is simply taking too long. So what happens when the political negotiations fail? What is the absolute glass-breaking panic button for planet Earth? Welcome to the terrifying, hyper-controversial world of climate engineering. We are no longer just talking about reducing our carbon footprint. We are actively designing mechanical blueprints to hack the Earth's thermostat and artificially bend the forces of nature to our will. And the craziest part? The technology to do this already exists, it is shockingly cheap, and we could literally start deploying it next Tuesday. To understand how human beings can artificially cool a planet of 8 billion people, we have to look back at a massive natural disaster that happened in the Philippines in 1991. When Mount Pinatubo violently erupted, it didn't just destroy the local landscape. It blasted nearly 20 million tons of sulfur dioxide straight up into the stratosphere. Those microscopic particles spread out across the entire globe, acting like billions of tiny mirrors, reflecting a fraction of the sun's harsh radiation back into deep space. And the result was absolutely staggering. For the next 2 years, the average temperature of the entire planet physically dropped by nearly 1 degree Fahrenheit. The volcano essentially acted as a global air conditioner. Now scientists want to replicate that exact volcanic explosion, but on demand. The plan is called solar radiation management. We would launch fleets of highly modified, high-altitude military jets into the stratosphere and have them continuously spray millions of tons of reflective sulfate aerosols directly into the upper atmosphere. It is essentially putting a giant chemical pair of sunglasses on the Earth. The math says it works. It would instantly halt the melting of the polar ice caps, stop the rising sea levels, and cool down the boiling oceans in a matter of weeks. But right when you think we have found the ultimate magic bullet solution to climate change, we slam headfirst into a massive, terrifying cliffhanger. What actually happens when human beings start forcefully playing God with the weather? If we artificially dim the sun, we don't just change the temperature. We fundamentally alter the global water cycle. The computer models show a horrifying side effect. Pumping sulfur into the sky over the Arctic to save the ice could completely disrupt the seasonal monsoons in South America and Asia. We might save Miami from drowning, but in the process we could accidentally trigger catastrophic multi-year droughts in India or Africa, completely destroying the food supply for over 2 billion people. You are essentially forcing the leaders of the world to play a sickening game of global roulette, deciding which continents get to thrive and which ones get to starve. And it gets even darker. Let's say we actually do it. We start spraying the sky, the planet cools down, and everyone celebrates. But because the Earth feels cool, politicians and corporations completely stop trying to cut carbon emissions. The invisible greenhouse gases keep silently building up in the background, trapped beneath our artificial sunshade. What happens if, 50 years from now, a global war breaks out, or the global economy collapses and the planes suddenly stop flying? The reflective dust would settle out of the atmosphere in a matter of months, and all of that trapped, pent-up heat would smash into the planet all at once. Scientists call this the termination shock. It wouldn't be a slow, gradual warming over decades. The global temperature would violently spike by several degrees in a single decade. The forests would instantly catch fire. The oceans would rapidly acidify, and the resulting biological shockwave would likely trigger a mass extinction event that humanity could not survive. We would be strapping a ticking time bomb to the planet, and we could never, ever let go of the trigger. So, if blocking the sun is too dangerous, how else can we hack the planet? What if we don't look up at the sky but look deep into the dark rolling oceans? Right now, there is a completely different rogue science experiment happening out at sea. It is called ocean iron fertilization. The concept is incredibly simple, yet wildly unpredictable. Phytoplankton are microscopic marine plants that naturally suck massive amounts of carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere. But they need iron to grow, and large parts of the ocean are essentially iron-starved deserts. Some rogue scientists and private companies have literally sailed massive ships out into the middle of the ocean and dumped hundreds of tons of iron dust directly into the water. The goal is to trigger massive, artificial blooms of plankton visible from space that will inhale millions of tons of carbon, die, and then sink to the bottom of the Mariana Trench, permanently locking the carbon away in the deep abyss. It sounds brilliant, but marine biologists are screaming in absolute panic. Because when you artificially force massive plankton blooms, they eventually decompose, sucking all the oxygen out of the water. You don't just sequester carbon, you accidentally create massive, suffocating dead zones that completely wipe out all commercial fish, whales, and sharks in the region. We are trying to cure the planet by aggressively altering its chemistry blindfolded. We are standing at the absolute edge of a terrifying new era in human history. For thousands of years, humanity was at the mercy of the weather. We prayed to the sky for rain and feared the brutal heat of the sun. But today, we have acquired the raw, terrifying mechanical power to actually grab the steering wheel of the Earth's climate. Climate engineering is no longer a fringe science fiction concept. It is rapidly becoming an inevitable political reality. Because as the rivers dry up and the wildfires rage, desperation will eventually override caution. The technology is too cheap, and the panic is too real. The question is no longer if we are going to try and artificially engineer the planet. The only terrifying question left is, when someone finally flips the switch and hacks the atmosphere, who exactly gets to hold the remote control?